privileged to introduce today's resource person. Dr. Mudassir Nazir has obtained his master's and doctorate in law from Jamia Millia Islamia, a central university in New Delhi. With an outstanding academic and research career, he has authored more than 40 research papers, two books, and five book chapters in reputed national and international publications. His research project titled Identification of Effectiveness of Mediation and Arbitration in Domestic Cases, a study of Jammu and Kashmir, was funded by the ICSSR Ministry of Education, Government of India. He is a distinguished scholar and he is the recipient of multiple academic awards, including Meritorious Fellowship Award from Jamia Millia Islamia University. His academic interests span from constitutional law, criminal law, jurisprudence, and legal methods, and he has taught across undergraduate, postgraduate, and doctoral programs. Although I am saying that his specialization or interest are in constitutional law, criminal law, or jurisprudence, but you ask him about any subject, he will be able to tell you he is an expert of all the subjects. And his paper titled Jurisdiction in Cyberspace Issues and Challenges was selected as reading material at the National Judicial Academy, Bhopal, alongside works of his scholarly contribution to the Indian legal domain. Dr. Mudassir continues to contribute actively to academic research, legal scholarship, and professional training, aiming to bridge the gap between law, policy, and social justice through innovative research and teaching excellence. Today, he will be speaking on the topic exploring existing knowledge, that how exactly you can find out the information which is available on the topic that you want to work upon, and he will be shedding some light on that. Dr. Mudassir, over to you.
Oh, thank you so much, Dr. Nikita, for the wonderful introduction. It's nice to see you once again.
Same
Uh,
here, sir.
Good evening to all participants. It's indeed an honor and privilege for me to be part of this workshop. So starting, I will be, we are getting 1 hour time, I think. So I will be dwelling for 50 or 45 minutes. Then for 15 minutes, we will be having a Q&A sessions. And I will be happy to answer to the questions which will be asked by the various participants. So I will be sharing my PPT. I have formally, prepared my PPT and I will be sharing the same with you all. So later on, I will also share it with the concerned,
Yes, sir.
uh, team members, so that they can give it to all the participants if they need it. Just a minute. Okay. So I think it is visible.
Sir, the PPT is not visible. Your screen is visible, sir.
Okay. Just a minute. I hope now it is no, no. I think it's not visible.
No, sir. Your Gmail page is shared, not the PPT. Yes, sir.
I hope now it is visible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so thank you so much. So I will be formally starting with my presentation. The topic which is given to me deals with the literature review. So we are living in an, as the introductory remark starts with the words that we are living in a world where everything is on just a click away from we people. So the world is a global village now. So everything is available there, and it is a major task now in this contemporary time is to see what data we can take and what data we will not take. So identification of relevant data is something which is very equally important in the modern contemporary development. So the contemporary societies, the contemporary researchers faces this problem. So for example, in the era of now AI, we are having number of softwares where it is easy for everyone, to just click and get a lot of a military of knowledge. And then the first and important thing which a researcher is, encountered with, that is to identify the relevant material for you. And not only this, I will add one important point to it, is that how to, find not only the relevant data, but how to identify the authentic data on the subject. So authentic and relevant data is something which is very important in the contemporary developments. So I will be dealing with this literature review a bit later because this is a part of the research design. So majorly I will talk about the research design and then to give you a sort of slides as to where what is important. So what is important is there is a problem in a society. As a researcher, what is equally important for we people is to find out what is the problem actually. So this is the first and foremost important task for a legal researcher. Unless and until we are not satisfied and we did not find a relevant data or a relevant problem, so we cannot investigate on it. A researcher is like a patient. A researcher, a researcher who is doing a research has to do a job like a patient or a doctor. A patient comes to you that I am feeling from a fever, and we are going to give him a treatment regarding the fever only. We are not going to give him a treatment regarding the bones or joints or something like that. So the first, there are number of issues in the society. One important issue is law, one important issue in the society is society, another is health, another is problem, another is education, then family, religion. There are a number of issues in our society, more particularly in the contemporary societies. So for example, let us take an example of an education. Now there is a problem in education. Now again, as a researcher, it is important for you to define what is education. Now what sort of education you are talking about? Do we mean by education means that those education which we are receiving from the what we call as that institutional education, be that primary education or be that higher education or be that secondary education or be that the elementary education? There are different educations for that matter. So if you find that there is a problem in what we call as education, now the first thing which you are supposed to do is to identify what sort of education you are talking about. Do you talk about the formal education which then government institutions provide, or do you mean that education which you know religious institutions talks about? What sort of education you are talking about? So where does this problem lies actually? So the first and important issue is then education which we need to cater on. Then we need to understand about what is then education. Now once we are satisfied with this, then we need to divide as to if there is a problem in it, what do we want as a researcher? What will be our outcome? What will be our solution? Do we need that this problem need certain alteration? Dissatisfaction in an education, do we need that this entire system needs amendment? Do we think that this entire system needs at altogether a new replacement, or for that matter do we mean that we need an improvement in it? Now I want to ask a question to all the participants. We are having almost 80 participants in it. So now my first question to you is, let us take an example. I hope that majority of the students here will be from the law background or from the social science background.
Yes, sir.
Let's take an example of appointment of judges. So normally the appointment of judges talks about that uh, you know president will appoint the Supreme Court judges in consultation with the Chief Justice. This is a procedure which has been mentioned or which has been entrenched upon by under Article 124. Now, there are a number of researches on it. Some says that no, this system, this appointment of which later on develops into the collegium, entire one section of the society says that we don't need a collegium system. We need altogether a different model. That is something what is called as NJAC. So this is a replacement. Some says no, this NJAC model is something bad. We need, collegium only, but we need certain things. For example, after the NJAC judgments case, there are certain new guidelines which has been enshrined, which has been adopted. For example, releasing MOMs of that particular meetings. So releasing that MOMs in that meetings is something which is now part and parcel of this. Now adding that means that this is something alteration in it, or we can amend it, or we can improve it. Whether it is dissatisfaction, whether it is replacement, whether it is alteration, whether it is improvement, whether it is amendment. The purpose of these things is only to get an improvement in the existing structure. The first job, the second job of a legal researcher is, or the second job of the research scholar is to see, the second job of a scholar is to see that we don't have such kind of things. The job of a scholar is to find out that we need to see this certification, dissatisfaction. What do we want from it? Do we need to amend the laws? For example, another, there are n number of examples. For that matter, question of the reservation. Do we need an entire replacement, or do we need certain things? As we all know that law is something which is called as a living law. So living law means it changes with the time. It progresses with the time. It's something which evolves over the period of time. It has to progress with the society. So these are something which is called as amendments. Now, how will we find out these amendments? The literature has to play an important role in it. Now, these are the issues, that is dissatisfaction, then assumption of satisfaction, what to change and how to change. Here, question of literature review comes into picture. My dear friends, please keep this in our mind. And literature review is something very important. And I don't have any hesitation in saying that in Indian legal researchers or in Indian, scholars, the question of literature review is very less. We don't go for a rigorous reviews. I can give you a number of examples. One of my friend who is doing his PhD currently in University of Leeds, he was doing a research on the question of forestation and afforestation, how the concept of forestation, deforestation, and afforestation comes. And he find one of the book written by some political theorist is published in the what we call as the Turkey. And from UK, that particular person had to travel to the Turkey and to go into the library and try to read out that. So what is important is that in the contemporary times, you need to study, you need to find out as to what is the core area which is lying, how to identify that. So the question of this comes into picture. Now, this is the formulation of the research problem. This is very important. When unless and until you don't know what is the problem, you cannot go for a literature review. यू नो दिस इज समथिंग विच इज अ जिसको जिसको हम बोलते हैं बीमारी है. डॉक्टर बोलेगा आपको, मेरे पास पेशेंट आपके पास आएगा एक स्कॉलर के पास, वो आपको बता देगा ये मेरी बीमारी है. एज स्कॉलर इट इज योर जॉब टू गिव हिम द ट्रीटमेंट. What is the job of a researcher? What is the job of a researcher? Before going for a literature review, you must be well versed with the what is called as a research problem. जैसे लॉ में कहा जाता है, facts are the 9 points of law. Similar is the situation with the research problem. Research, a well identified research problem is called as a half of the research. So you need to identify the problem. A well versed problem should be there. You must be well versed with the problem. What is the actual problem? Where does problem lies? Where is the actual problem? So the first important thing is, now see the circles. There are a number of circles. The internal circle one which is there, which is in the blue, is something realization of problem. You understand that there is a problem in reservation. There are a number of scholars who are doing the research on the reservations. And the first thing is that which is in comes into mind, does reservation is something which is anti-competitive examinations? Does a reservation sometimes violate the element of competency? Now, the outer circle, the second circle, talks about something which is called as identification of the problem, where you actually identify. Now, one thing comes into your mind, then you are trying to identify what is the problem in this research. What is the problem in this? Now you are trying to find out. No, giving reservation may be good, but a person who is now an IAS officer, does he needs a reservation? Our honorable Chief Justice of India, the sitting Chief Justice of India, Behan Gawai, he is from a Dalit background. Does his children needs a reservation? Can India afford to give the reservation to these creamy layer people? Now, the identify you have identified the problem of the what is called as a creamy layer. Now, third issue is the analysis of the problem. Now you are analyzing it. What is the problem? The problem is that out of the 50 persons who are claiming the reservations, 25 is something who are, whose fathers are well versed, whose fathers are well established in the government. See, the question of reservation in India is something very debatable. Originally, the reservation was in 1950. Constitution has adopted it. Only SC and ST was given the reservation. And Anglo-Indians was their reservation. Only three reservations were there. Now I am giving you the examples now. Please understand this. Originally, only three categories of reservations were there. That is scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, and Anglo-Indians. Then time goes on, there comes another issues, what is called as OBC. So OBC was given a reservation. Then again, women's was given a reservation. Then Krishnan case, children's were given a reservation. Then again, reservation in Panchayati Raj system was given. Then again, reservation in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha now. Lok Sabha. So this is the problem now. This is this analysis of the problem now. Now, finally, in a problem, there are a number of issues. And you need to fix one issue where you can go for a research. This is a quality of a researcher that you need to, cage and reservoir of water in a pond and try to take a dip out of it. So this is very important for a rigor researchers. Then once you have identified the problem, now you need to identify what is the process and what you are going to achieve. This is something what we call as a research objectives. And how you are going to achieve, this is something what is called as a questions. So this is very important for you. You must be well versed with this. You must be limited to it. If you are limited to the research for on the question of reservation, you should not go here and there. Reservation of women. If you are limited to the reservation in promotions, you should be limited to the reservation in promotions. You should not be gone to the reservation in the initial appointments. If you are going with the reservation in initial appointments, then you should remain stick with that. You should not go to the reservation in the promotions. So these are the important things which you should keep in your mind. So these are the primary aspects of a researcher. That is research. Then you must have an object. Then you must have a search. This is something where the question of literature review comes into picture. Search knowledge on it. So the first and foremost important thing is once you have identified the problem, then you will try to find out what is the existing research on it. डॉक्टर आपके एक पेशेंट आपके पास आ गया जिन आप खांसी की बीमारी है, then you need to analyze the cause. इससे पहले क्या क्या दवाई इसको मिली है. अगर एंटीबायोटिक से ये बंदा ठीक नहीं हुआ है, what sort of medicine he needs now. अगर एंटीबायोटिक से ये ठीक नहीं हुआ है तो आप फिर भी एंटीबायोटिक्स देंगे तो वो बंदा बीमार ठीक नहीं होगा. सिमिलर इज द क्वेश्चन विद द रिसर्च. जो रिसर्च आप करना चाहते हैं, द प्रॉब्लम विच यू हैव आइडेंटिफाइड, if you are doing research on the same, if you are doing the research on the same, then it is not going to help. So what is important is after identifying the research, you need to find out what is the existing knowledge on the subject. So after only analyzing the existing knowledge, now what sort of knowledge, the tool and techniques of the literature review comes into picture. You need to identify the relevant knowledge. Just I have given an example. If you are working on a reservation in promotions, you need to remain static with that literature which deals with the reservation in promotions. For example, I was talking about the research. Then you must be well versed with the American cases. For example, Berkeley. American Berkeley's case is one of the landmark on the question of the where the justice Blackburn said that something we need, unanimity, or we need the differences. So these are the important things which should come into your picture. Then this is the problem. Now, in your literature, you need to remain focused on five things. What is the literature for you? Why that literature is important for you, how that literature is important for you, and where you are going to use that literature. Because when you are formulating a thesis or when you are writing a research project, so it is important for you to understand where to fix it, the data, and when to use it. So this is equally important. So my dear friends, you must be well aware about what, why, how, where, and when. So unless and until you are not well versed with it, you are not going to, go for a research. Then these are the major parts. While analyzing the data collection, literature review, you need to go for a data collection and data analysis and data interpretation. These are the three vast areas of the research. These are equally important where question of mathematics, question of techniques, chi-square method or different formulas comes into picture. Usually in social sciences, we don't go for empirical data. If your data is an empirical, then data collection, data analysis, and data interpretation is equally important. Even if your data is theoretical, unless and until you cannot, uh, again, let me give you a basic thing, that is, research is something: thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. There is a thesis, then there is a counter argument to it, which means a synthesis. Then a new third picture comes into picture, which is called as a synthesis. Then these are the research steps, which you already know. So these are the research problem, objectives, purpose, and limitations. And these are the formulations of the research problem, review of literature, objectives. These are the steps. So I am supposed to go for a review of literature. I am coming to that part only. What is the review of literature? How to explore the existing knowledge on the subject, and how to explore the not only the relevant data, how to explore, you know, the and you know relevant and quantifiable data on the subject. Because a law researcher is something, a social science researcher is something which has to go for these things. So there are two compartments of a literature review: something what is called as substantive literature review, another is something what is called as procedural literature review. When we talk about some substantive, where the question of nature of problem, objective of the research, and purpose of research comes into picture. Then we talk of the procedural, then their questions comes into picture: the limitations, the research method, method of data collection, sample size, tools and technologies. This is equally very important. Now there are research design which may be in nature, and this depends on what sort of research you are taking care of. So these are the two types of inquiries. I'm not supposed to go for it. Then these are the number of datas which are very important for you as a researcher. When you are collecting the data, it may be doctrinal or empirical. On data, your data may be primary or secondary, or your data collection may be inductive or deductive. So these are the important things which you should keep in your mind. So unless and until you are not competent enough in fixing your position, research is like a playing a golf. When you are playing a golf, you must be well versed with your position. You must be limited to your target. What is your target? What you want to achieve? That is your research objectives. So a research scholar, for me, after after having a small experiences in the research world, for me, research is something which is your initial years of initial years of surveys or data collections, where you are trying to limit yourself. What is the problem, what is the research objectives, and what is the research questions. So these are the doctrinal methods. While going for the literature review, you need to find out the credible source. Then after having the credible source, you must have a relevant that find out that source must be relevant to your research problem, then no scope of doubt. You must not be, हम लोग यहाँ क्या करते हैं यूजुअली इंडिया में, अगर हमारा टॉपिक रिजर्वेशन है, रिजर्वेशन पे जो भी किताब है हम वो पढ़ते हैं, बट दैट इज नॉट एक्चुअली द केस. यू नीड टू फाइंड आउट द क्रेडिबल डाटा फॉर यू. एंड नाउ आज के दौर में क्रेडिबल डाटा ऑनलाइन आप डाल दीजिए रिजर्वेशन, यू विल फाइंड आउट दीज नंबर ऑफ ऑनलाइन जर्नल्स की वजह से BLLB का कोई पेपर लिखता है, आपका असाइनमेंट वो भी पब्लिश होता है. नाउ उसमें न सर होता है न पैर होता है. know there are number of problems in it. I am always an optimistic regarding certain things कि हमारी अगर एडवोकेसी आजकल जमाने में खराब हुई है, it is because of the law schools, it is because of the culture of this moot court. बच्चे को कुछ भी नहीं पता होता है, बस आर्ग्यू करता है इन द नेम ऑफ केशवानंदा भारती केस वर्सेस यूनियन ऑफ इंडिया. उस बच्चे को पूछो केशवानंदा भारती केस की जजमेंट कितने पेजेस की थी, उसको वो भी नहीं पता होगा. So what is important, what I am trying to say is, as a researcher, you must find out the relevant part in you. Does that judgment is relevant for you? Or if अगर basic proportional facts ही अलग अलग थे, can you say that that is relevant for you? Now, data admissibility, that is something very important. आज के दौर में we need to find out, we need to understand as to how data is relevant for you, what data and when, why that data is relevant for you, and how that data is relevant for you. So these are the important things which we all must keep in your mind. This is something very important. A legal researcher must be well versed with it. Unless and until we are not well versed with it, we are not going for that. We need to be information in this world must be credible. Now keep these four things in your mind. Information must be credible, it must be relevant, there should not be any kind of scope, and that must be admissible. Now admissible means, what is your research object? You must try to find out that research object. मैंने आपको पहली एग्जांपल दी, पेशेंट आपके पास आ गया, वो आपको कह रहा सर में दर्द है, आपको सर दर्द की ही दवाई देनी है. आप उसको कोल्ड की बीमारी की दवा दे देंगे, दैट इज नॉट गोइंग टू सूट. वो आपके पास उसलिए नहीं आया है. That may be something additional problems which are coming into picture. So this is equally important. That is something what is called as a data processing. So it is a part of research, what we call as a literature review. That literature review starts from the day one to last day. When you are something, literature review is something which you are doing even after completion of your project, thesis, or for that matter dissertation, or for that matter a project. These, and what is important is an observation of facts, then you are analyzing it and you are realizing it, and then your satisfaction level, and then acceptance. आज भी आपको बहुत सारे स्कॉलर मिलेंगे जिनका PhD होगा, वो खुद ही बोलेंगे हम अपने PhD से खुद सेटिस्फाई नहीं है. नो, व्हाट डज इट मीन? उसकी अपनी सेटिस्फिकेशन नहीं है, बिकॉज he had not analyzed it, realized the problem, neither he had analysis, had done proper analysis on it, neither he has observed the things properly. Then there are two types of reasonings which we call as inductive and deductive reasoning. This is not important. And then there are something what is called as a last thing is something which is called as a writing of the research report. And this is something, after giving a brief overview about the process of literature review, this is very important for we people, as what is literature review. And literature review, my dear friends, is something which is systematic, critical, and analytical summary of the existing knowledge. Now, how will you find out the existing knowledge? So existing data, finding out that existing data is very important. It is not only question of finding out the existing data, it is equally important to understand as to what is the credible and, not only the credible, but a relevant data which is available for you. In the world of AI, in the world of technology, in the world of online areas, there are a number of data which are available. So the first and important thing for a research scholar is to find out what is the relevant data for him. So for finding out the relevant data, two steps are very important. Number one, he must be well versed with his problem. He must be well versed with the question of research objectives and research questions. Second thing is that he must be well versed with it. Second thing is that he must be focused. He must know what is the existing literature on the subject, because ultimate aim of his research from day one to day end is to fill the research gap. Once you are successful in finding out the research gap, your work is 80% of your work is done. So what is important is you need to identify as to what is the gap. So these are the sources of a literature in the of a modern contemporary times. These is something what is called as a primary sources, secondary sources. Now, what is primary source? Now, primary source means what is called as basic sources, which you are directly getting, be it statutes that is available for you. This is your primary, or be that, for example, reports which has been published by the government or where you are actually part. For example, if you have done a research project, then that may be primary for you. And there may be secondary data. Secondary data means which you are not getting directly, you are getting through different sources. Be that sources means indexes, bibliography, online encyclopedia, number of scopuses, or for that matter UGCKR or JSTOR, Hen Online, Shodh Gangotri. There are number of areas on it where you can find out. Then there are steps how you can go for it. This means that define the topic or the problem. So once you are once you identify the problem, once you identify the topic, then your half of the research has completed. Then you need to focus on the keywords, which I earlier mentioned. That keywords here means that keywords here means that you must be pinpointed. That is why we have a question of a research objectives. You need to analyze, we need to achieve a specific objectives. That is equally important. Number third is collect and screen the relevant literature. Then after analyzing it, after collecting it, we need to organize these literature into the systematic and chronological manner. Just let me give you an example of the basic example which I where I was started about the for example, what we called as this reservation, issue of reservation. We must be well versed about that. Initially 1949-50 में हमारे पास एससी और एसटी था, एंग्लो इंडियंस था. फिर 1950s में हमने एंग्लो इंडियंस को रिमूव कर दिया. फिर 1980s में मंडल कमीशन, फिर ओबीसी बाय वे ऑफ एन एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर, फिर अगेन जजमेंट आ गई. देन आफ्टर दैट जजमेंट कोर्ट ने कहा 15(4) is not an exception, it is a general rule. Then 15(4)(a) was added. Then after 15(4)(a) was added, again judgment aa gayi 15(4)(b). Then again steps comes into picture. Then journal thing. Then again judgments were added. Then EWS was struck down. Then again 15(4) was amended, or 16(4) was added, which talks about the EWS. So these are the number of things, sequence of the events. You should be well versed with the sequence of the events. Then we can go for a systematic literature review. In this contemporary times, systematic literature review is very important. And once you are done with your systematic literature review, then and only you can find out the quantifiable data. So you can explore the existing literature on the subject and where does the gap lies. Once you identify where the gap lies, then you can fill that gap. Then you need to find out what are the facts, what are the findings of that literature, existing research literature. Is that literature now relevant? Because as I have earlier pointed out, that our societies are living societies. Similarly, our legal systems are living societies, living constitution. Our legal system must be a living legal system. Today, a law may be relevant, day after tomorrow, it may be irrelevant. Today, one of the practice in the society may be relevant, day after tomorrow, it may be irrelevant. Similarly, today, a data may be relevant, day after tomorrow, it may be irrelevant. So what is important is that we need to find out the relevance of the data. The last is the summarize the gaps. We need to pinpoint the gaps. Now, how we can pinpoint the gaps? For that, first thing is that we must be focused on our research objectives. Again, if we are not well versed with the facts of this case, again, if we are not well versed with the question of, facts of the case, if we are not well versed with the systematic issues, if we are not well versed with the particular issues, then we cannot go for it. So what is important is we need to identify the existing gaps in the literature. We need to find out कि इस टॉपिक पे अभी तक कितना काम हुआ है. अब फॉर एग्जाम्पल अभी अभी ईडब्ल्यूएस आ गया. फॉर दैट मैटर वी नीड टू फाइंड आउट ईडब्ल्यूएस पे कितना काम हुआ, क्या अमेरिका में इस पे काम हुआ है, अगर हुआ है व्हाट इज द प्रॉब्लम देयर. सो दैट इज इक्वली इंपॉर्टेंट. नाउ what are the qualities of a good literature review? Comprehensive, that is important. Logical, important. Organized, it is very important. Analytical and critical. Now what is critical? अभी जो मैं बता रहा था, critical means that data must be relevant to you. We must be well versed with the, you know criticality. Element of criticality must be there. But unfortunately, I am sorry to say कि आजकल हमारे रिसर्चर्स में प्रॉब्लम है. We are not critical. और फॉर दैट मैटर सुप्रीम कोर्ट की कोई जजमेंट आई, वी आर ब्लाइंडली से दिस इज गुड. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट वी शुड नॉट एक्सेप्ट इट, बट वी मस्ट बी क्रिटिकल. क्या वो जजमेंट रेलिवेंट है? फॉर एग्जाम्पल राइट टू प्रिवेसी. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने एक खरक सिंह के केस में आर्टिकल 21 को ही इंटरप्रेट करके कहा राइट टू प्रिवेसी इज नॉट अ फंडामेंटल राइट. नाउ सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा राइट टू प्रिवेसी इज अ फंडामेंटल राइट. नाउ यू नीड टू बी क्रिटिकल. क्या आज के दौर में कुछ होता है प्रिवेसी? व्हेन वी आर ज्वाइनिंग एन ऑनलाइन, हमारे सिस्टम में जीपीएस है, कनेक्टिविटी है. जब आपको फॉर एग्जांपल आपको दिल्ली में एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाना है, आपके मैप को बताया आपको मैप के थ्रू बताया जाता है कि इस रोड से जाइए, इस रोड से जाइए. डज योर प्रिवेसी एग्जिस्ट समवेयर? सो वी नीड टू बी वेरी क्रिटिकल इन दिस. And one more important thing, my dear friends, that is updated research. You must be very well updated on your research and provide a clarity what, why and how of your study. जो मैंने पहले एक चार्ट आपको दिखाया था कि as a researcher we need to identify what, where, when, how. These are the important things. Or again, only on this our research can be, well versed. So we need to be comprehensive, we need to be logical, we need to be organized, we need to be analytical, we need to be critical, and we must have a clarity on the question of why, what, and how. So that is very important for we people. Now, what are the common mistakes? The common mistakes which a scholar is doing is that, listening without synthesis. We are listing it without knowing whether that data is relevant for you or not. आपने कितना लिटरेचर रिव्यू किया है, वो अगर आपका रिसर्च ऑब्जेक्टिव फॉर एग्जांपल है रिजर्वेशन इन प्रमोशन, अब आपने बुक लिखी है, आपने बुक पढ़ी है रिजर्वेशन इन इनिशियल अपॉइंटमेंट्स, क्या वो डाटा आपके लिए रेलेवेंट है? नहीं. सो वी नीड टू फाइंड आउट दैट थिंग्स. नंबर सेकंड, इग्नोरिंग कंट्राडिक्टरी एविडेंसेस. बिकॉज एक बुक के अगेंस्ट कोई स्टेटमेंट आया है, वी नीड टू सी दैट कंट्राडिक्टिंग एविडेंसेस शुड नॉट बी देयर. Then outdated sources, that is again a problem. Weak link with the research questions. So our questions, our research objectives and our research questions should be in sync with each other. We must be well versed with it. Then plagiarism and poor citation practices. In India, unfortunately, we don't have a citation practices. हम यहाँ ये मानते हैं इंडिया में कि जिस बुक में, जिस थीसिस में ज्यादा साइटेशन है, उसने बहुत कुछ जो है दूसरों से कॉपी पेस्ट किया, अपना कुछ नहीं किया है. दिस इज वेरी रॉन्ग प्रैक्टिस. while as in वेस्टर्न पार्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड, साइटेशन, जितनी साइटेशन है उतना क्रेडिबल रिसर्च. इससे ये भी पता चलता है कि जितनी कम साइटेशंस आपके एरिया में हैं, जितनी कम साइटेशंस आपकी थीसिस में हैं, जितनी कम साइटेशन आपकी थीसिस में, उतना कम रिसर्च आपने किया है. So what is important is the citations. So you must have a good citations in your work. So these are the important, basic parameters. about what is the literature review. I try to find out basics to give the basic overview about it. And as I earlier mentioned that I will be dealing with the 40 to 45 minutes, then I will be giving the 10 minutes for a Q&A sessions, and I will be putting an end to it here. Just give me 2 minutes so that I can conclude what I have said. I just started with the word that we must be well versed with the research area. Then we need to find out the credible research on it. Then after research we need to be very equitable about that research, how that research is relevant to you. And then we must analyze that research and try to find out where it fits to my research objectives. And these are the primary my comments on it. Thank you so much. I will be leaving the stage to you people for question answers.
Thank you so much, sir. So there's a question, although it is not directly related to the review of literature, but there's a question asked by Arinda Sultani in the message box that, sir, where we have to mention our hypothesis.
Thank you so much. A hypothesis is something which is an introductory part of your research. After mentioning the statement of problem, and then then statement of problem, then literature review, then your research objective, then research questions, and then hypothesis. Hypothesis will come at the end usually. This follows, and this sometimes varies from university to university protocol. And usually we must have one hypothesis, but sometimes university protocol says that we must have a two hypothesis. It depends on a university to university protocol, but a good practice is that hypothesis follows only research objectives and research questions.
Another question asked by Gitanjali Khurana, and it is a very relevant question which every student struggles with. The question is, if I am writing a thesis on a relatively new or emerging topic where very few theses are available, especially in the Indian context, how should I approach the literature review? Usually, a thesis level review relies on other substantial academic works rather than short reports or articles. While I plan to include international thesis in a thematic manner, I am uncertain about how to handle the national level literature where such thesis level research is limited. What would be the best approach in that case?
Thank you. The approach which a scholar must adopt is that first we need to understand what are the credible research available on the topic. Once we identify the credible research on it, then we need to find out as to what are the research which are cited in that particular research. For example, let me give you an example. If we are trying to find out the rape victims, if we are analyzing the rape victims, yeah, for that, for example, my trial of rape victims. Now trial of rape victim is something which is in camera, which is not available. So in such a situation, how will you proceed? The first thing is that we need to find out the relevant book on it, or a credible book. For example, there is a book of Pratiksha Bakshi, a JNU professor on rape trial. Then what we will do, we need to study this rape trial book. Then we need to find out what are the resources which are cited in this book only. Then we need to go into that available literature on this. Then we need to find a trail on it. So once we go with this direction, we will find out as to where does actually the problem lies. Initially यहाँ usually हम bottom to up जाते हैं. इन जैसे situations में हम up to bottom वाला approach use करते हैं. So in such a situation, usually we should adopt this type of approach so that we can get the traces of the problem. Once we are successful in it, then and only we can find out, uh, then and only we can find out as to what is the appropriate problem on the question. Yes, there are issues. Now in this global world, I don't think there is any problem which is new. So the concept of new problem is not there. There may be a problem, but the concept of new problem may not be there. Now, there may be a contemporary problem. That is why the modern jurist did not use something new laws. They said that these are contemporary developments. So, in this global world, there is nothing like something what is called as a new problem. So, problem is a problem. So, for example, let me give you an example of the corona. Corona was something which was the Western problem, but it took just few days to reach to we people. So that was not something which is new. Now, yes, we may have a first experiences. Now, government has started providing the vaccines, then start researching on it. And I think in the next year, we have something what is called as an international global treaty on it. So again, there are, now become a routine norm. Now, जो response हमारा कोविड में था, क्या वही response अभी हमारे H13 viruses में था? No, because now we become habitual to this. So there is no question of a new problem. So my suggestion to you is, Gitanjali, is that we should go top down. We should go from top to down approach in such type of problems.
Okay. So there is another question by Gitanjali Khurana herself. In research papers, authors often include data and statistics to strengthen their analysis. But in subjects like corporate law, areas such as competition law and CSR, right, or corporate disclosures sorry sir, sorry, I will repeat it again. In research papers, authors often include data and statistics to strengthen their analysis, but in subjects like corporate law, areas such as competition law and substantiability, data may not always be directly available. It might be limited to related areas like CSR or corporate disclosures. In such cases, how can one approach data collection or analysis? If
Yes,
the
that
data
is.
is not available in the uh, research paper, then how can we go for data analysis?
Yes, this is the issue. Usually, we don't have empirical data on this. But what we can do in such a thing is that we can find out the reports of the government. That is equally important. Well, there are a number of committees which has been constituted. For example, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Government of India has continuously highlighted the report. For that matter, let me give you an example of insolvency and bankruptcy code. So this is something which was new to Indian soil. The credit for this goes to the late Arun Jaitley. Then it was challenged before a bench of 5 judges headed by the Justice Nariman. And if we find out that judgment actually relied on the American jurisprudence, because we don't have such problem. Or for that matter, reservation. We are having few scholars who are doing the research on the reservations, and the original 1980 judgment of reservation relies on the American jurisprudence. So where 4 American judgments was cited. So in such a situation, the Western jurisprudences plays an important role. As I earlier mentioned, that they are now the research problems is not limited to a particular house in the global village. The problems comes to you today, and it may come to me tomorrow. So there are constant research going on. Number of research agencies has been developed by the government, particularly ICCSR. Then different ministries are giving funds now. Ministry of Education and then UGC has also given an funds now. There are continuous researches going on. There are number of sponsored agencies which are doing research or which are funding the various agencies. We should always try to focus on the find out the what are the private researches on it, rather than giving a research papers, because sometimes it is there are limitation in research papers. Research paper is of 7 page, 8 page, 9 page, or 10 page. So there is always a question of authenticity in the research papers, whether that data is relevant or not, and how that research was conducted. That is equally important for a student who are working on his PhD thesis. Must avoid using the data which are available on the papers, because the credibility in that data is equally very important. We need to be very careful about this aspect as well.
There is another question by Arinda Sultani. Which type of citations we have to use?
Yes, thank you so much. It all depends upon the universities. A particular university is having its own model. But for me, if your thesis goes to the international, evaluator, then we should go for an international citation style, be it Blue Book or APA. Or usually, if the thesis is in India, then we can go for an ILI, or we can go for another social sciences problem, yeah, research. But usually now, There is a mandate of Scopus, international publications. A scholar, since from his beginning, must focus on the international citation standards rather than going to the national standard. But means it does not mean that our international standards, citation standards are not good. That are equally good. But since keeping in view the contemporary developments, modern education policy, national education policy 2020 and 20, where we believe in the concept of Vasudev Kutumbakam. International universities are coming to India. They are opening its campuses here. Then we should focus on the international citation methods rather than the national citation method. This is my personal choice. It all depends on you, what sort of citation method follows the universities.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think it is like no citation is good or bad. It is just that where you want your research to be published or where you want your research to be read. So the target audience and the target publisher which is there, you have to comply with their citation standards. So
Yes.
that how, like sir said, that usually in legal studies and social studies we in internet, when we go on an international forum, we go for APA and blue book citation. But it does not mean that the Indian citation style are not good enough. It's just that the requirement of that particular journal or publisher is that's why we follow that citation style. Somebody Arinda is only asking that can we use Oscola style.
Yes, no issue in it. If the target audience require that, we can use it.
And plus now there are softwares also that they can convert. Even if you're going with a particular style and you're not sure which publisher you will approach, then you can always use that software and convert it into the relevant citation style that they are asking for.
Yes.
I Is there any other question? uh, Not for now, sir. Maybe like later on they can ask and we will forward you the questions if there are any. And
Sure.
thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Although the Yash will say on this, but I'm actually happy to listen to you. I don't know how it is possible that in the all these years, this is the first time I'm listening to your lecture. How, I don't know how could I even how did I miss it? Maybe I didn't get an opportunity since we were working together, so maybe I didn't get an opportunity to listen to you. But I always came to you for advice and everything. But listening to you giving listening to you giving a lecture was a very wonderful experience for me personally.
Thank you so much.
Over to you, Yash.
Okay, so very good evening, everyone. As am I audible? Okay, okay. Okay, so very good evening, everyone. As we come to the close of the another insightful session, it is my honor to deliver the vote of thanks on behalf of Lex Gazette Academy and Faculty of Law, Vivekananda Global University, Jaipur. First and the foremost, we express our heartful gratitude to our esteemed resource person, Dr. Mudassir Nazir sir, for delivering an inspiring and thoughtful session over the exploring existing knowledge. We are truly grateful for your time and effort, sir. Whatever you shared today, your insight will undoubtedly helpful for our participant to refine their approach toward the research. Our sincere appreciation goes to all the academician, researcher, and the participant for their active involvement and participation through today's session. Your engagement continues to make this 5-day journey a rich learning experience. Uh, Special thanks to goes our organizing team. We concluded the third day of our Right to Rise program. We will meet again tomorrow with our fourth session with Dr. Abhilasha Khare, Assistant Professor of Law at uh, School of Law, Symbiosis International University, who will be sharing her insightful thought on another topic. Thank you once again to everyone for being the part of today's session. Wishing you all a wonderful evening ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone. Thank you, sir.